Hi everyone, this video is going to be a review of my first 12-week year, which would have ended yesterday. I'll be going through my goals, the tactics that I use for each of them, and the results from my first cycle. So I'm currently on week 13, which is really a week of reflection in between the 12-week year framework. So for context on the goals that you'll be seeing and on the tactics, I am a freelance virtual consultant. I transitioned from working in medicine to working online, mainly doing Notion and Tana consulting work full-time. And I made this transition almost exactly 1 year ago, actually. So I'm going to do my best to keep this concise and to not ramble, but you can watch 1.2 or 1.5 speed if I do. Let's get going right away. So I'm going to start from my vision. One of the core parts of the 12-week year is to articulate your vision as best as you can. You can do this through images. I did these vision boards in using the app Miro, and they really helped to ground me and to center me. They centered me throughout the 12-week year period of time. So the only adjustment I would make to how I used this vision section is that I want to get a bit more granular within each of these spheres. So if I click into this one, you see that I just have the vision board, which is a screenshot from Miro embedded here, but I don't really have much. I don't have any bullet points underneath that kind of drive the points home about each of these visions, right? It was a good process in the moment of doing it, but I think the more that I have my vision as my end goal, the more that the less that I stray rather throughout the 12-week year. So for my second 12-week year cycle, I do want to have some more strategic sessions where I come back, I look at each of these vision boards and do some light journaling and really try to make this vision more visual inside of my head. But that's the vision section. I did find myself, as I was going through the weeks, I tried to make it a habit to come back to this tab and look at the vision. If that is maybe harder for you to do, you can always just have the 3 images up above your goals instead of having them in a different tab. But I did remember to come back and reflect on my vision and make sure that that was kind of had that end goal in mind. Next, let's move on to the goals that I had for this 12-week year cycle. I set out 3 goals. I really took it home not to put too much on my plate. As someone who has significant perfectionist tendencies, I find that I tend to think that I can do a whole bunch when in reality I can't. So I try to be realistic at the start of this 12-week year cycle when I started this on the 4th of March. And I only gave myself 3 goals. I knew that I wanted one of them to be a health and fitness goal, and the other 2 really ended up being finance income related, simply because I just left medicine, no longer getting that salary on a monthly basis. I need to be able to support myself financially and to not continue to drive through my savings. So that's why this is sort of has this balance, but definitely for my next 12-week year cycle, I think I want to have a goal that is a relationship goal, so the relationships in my life, how I can really foster those better. So getting into the first goal, my first goal was to increase my monthly income to $1,500 USD per month. Now, this was definitely ambitious. I know I just said that I'm trying not to put too much on my plate, but as I said, this was very dire. If I did not start to make more consistent income, I knew that I would have to go back to medicine. And I think I stated that here. Like I that's not an option for me. So I have to make this work. This is my passion. This is what I think about all the time. This is what I am obsessed with. This is what I enjoy doing. I did not have those feelings towards medicine. And that's why I'm in this, my life path changed. So I made this goal, and there are a few caveats. So within my 12-week year planner page for the goal inside of Notion, I added in this table where I can track how much I was making on a monthly basis. You know, to see if I'm on goal, to see how far off I am. I like to see signposts because those, as well as progress bars, they motivate me to stay disciplined, very visual, and I like to see the structure being outlined and the structure coming to life, or the plan coming to life. So that is why I did this table here. Now, because I live in Trinidad, right, how I get paid is it's not like when someone hires me to do a Notion project, or when someone hires me to do productivity program. It's not like I get that money instantly into my bank account. I use Lemon Squeezy to receive payments from my clients, and Lemon Squeezy has payout dates usually on the 14th and the 28th of the month. And because of that, while I might have a list of work that I would have booked for the month of March, for example, there's a discrepancy between when I actually receive that amount inside of my bank account. Why am I saying this? Because when I initially did this $1,500 a month goal, I was working based off of of the work that I booked for that month. So for example, March, I did in fact book my income for that month based on the work that I acquired was more than 1,500 USD. However, when I actually received that money in my bank account would have been in April. If that makes sense to you, I'm not going to go on too long about this because I know that, not a lot of people are from Trinidad. But if you are, then I hope that this video might provide some clarity about payment. Well, not this video, but this section. If you would like me to go further in depth into that, I can do that in another video. But coming back to this, it jumbles it in my head a bit because it feels like if I did not meet my goal for March or for any of the months, when in reality, I know that at the end of March, I did in fact cross 1,500 of income, but a lot of that spilled out to April just because of when I actually received the money in my bank account. So if I actually go to I linked this payouts database, my payout database where I track everything. This is the sum in TT dollars. This is not US dollars. I wish this were US dollars, but this is TT dollars, Trinidad and Tobago dollars. So if I go directly to this database, you'll kind of see what I'm talking about. So I have payouts by date received, and I have payouts by payout date. So these are the two columns that I have here. The payout date is the date that Lemon Squeezy or Gumroad would have, the money would have been sent from them and it's in transit to my bank account. And then the date received is the date that I received that money in my bank account. Like it's there, I can see it, I can use it. So I wanted to make that very clear. I don't know why. But anyways, so even looking at this, I did not meet the goal based on the income that I received in my bank account. However, this is significantly much better than the months before. For example, from January, I left medicine in June. So I was not making consistent income at all. So at the beginning of this 12-week year, when I set these goals, it actually I worked towards them, and therefore I was able to see increases in my income over the month. Of course, I have a long way to go still, but just think about the amount of progress that was made using the 12-week year framework as opposed to all the months before when I did not have the 12-week year framework in place. If I did start this from June, if I was more strategic about my tactics and about my goals, about my time, how would this have impacted my income? So just driving home that point about the importance of being intentional and strategic about what you're going to do to achieve that goal. Nevertheless, these were my 12 weeks. I had lots of different goals going. These tactics, changed on a weekly basis. And really and truly, they changed because of the fact that this is not a health and fitness goal where I have the same recurring tactics that I know that I need to get done each week. This is very much strategic planning, and I had this little brainstorming area here because that allowed me to then plug in. Some of these, I would just drag this directly into the database here, and that would be my tactic for the week. I don't remember where this was. Yeah. So having the strategic planning and brainstorming section before you actually begin to just do things randomly is probably my biggest takeaway from doing the 12-week year. In the past, I would kind of just pull things out of the wazoo, and I just did what I thought would have been made the most sense. But having those sessions where I thought about, okay, how am I actually going to do this? I use Claude and AI assistants, ChatGPT, a lot to help me because I'm not a business person. By profession, I'm a doctor, and doctors are not by default, or they don't learn anything about business. So I knew that I needed help, and in combination of reading books and trying to learn as much as I can from YouTube and stuff like that, that's how I was able to make some more strategic decisions to achieve my income goals. I think that's enough about this goal. Am I happy with this? Yes. Is there room for improvement? Yes. Moving along to the next goal. So this goal was to weigh 160 pounds by the end of this 12-week year. Happy to report that I weighed myself today and I was 158.8. So, yay. Of course, the weight is not the be-all and end-all of your health and fitness, but for me, I knew that I needed to lose a certain amount of fat loss. I needed to have a certain amount of fat loss to progress with my strength training and my overall health and fitness. Like, I know how I felt at 170 pounds was very much not my optimal self, and I knew that I needed to put in the discipline of not eating certain foods. I had habits that crept in to my daily life that were making my fitness very, very poor. So I wanted to get rid of those habits right away. So my my tactics for this goal really were these four here. Cardio twice a week, gym for my strength training 3 times a week. I intermittent fasted 5 days for the week, and I tracked my macros 5 days for the week. Of course, these might look different for you if you have a health and fitness goal. This is what I knew that I needed to do based on conversations with my personal trainer and based on my own reading and research and knowledge. I knew that a lot of the habits that I had were because I was just giving in to cravings and giving into just not having meals prepared, all of these things. So a whole other video could be made about this, but overall, This was an amazing 12 weeks for my strength and fitness. This was an amazing 12 weeks for that fat loss. And I think for my second cycle, instead of focusing on fat loss, it will more be on gaining muscle, gaining strength, and continuing to be consistent with the habits that I have so meticulously built. 1 week of we will all fall off based on life circumstances, etc. But I think this foundation is so important. And I did track my weights over the course. Again, you don't have to do this, but for me, it was something that helped me to achieve the goal at the end of the day. Next, my last goal was a very temporary one. I had applied for a job in medicine. I did this because I was going through my savings at a rate that made me feel very uncomfortable, and I really wanted to see if this was a temporary job in medicine and it would have allowed me to replenish some of my savings while at the same time still being able to work on my business, because it was just going to be like a 6-month job. But I did not get called for the job. Maybe I should have followed up. They always say that. But I decided, I started to prepare for the job. And then I decided that I feel like I'm wasting time here preparing for a job that I may not get called for. And I closed this goal on April 2nd. I decided that if I did get called for the job, that I would just prepare knowing when I, got the call. So I'm glad I made this decision because it allowed me to focus more on this goal and building that consistent income. Now, briefly, I will just kind of look at the progression of my weeks and then we'll wrap up. So my weeks progressed. I just want to show you how the layout has changed within Notion. So week 1, I just had one linked database here. And this progressed, I believe, up until about week 8. In week 8, I started to add some to-dos to the top of my page, and that made me realize that I could link my tasks to my weekly page inside of Notion. So I have all of my tasks linked now. For example, if I go to week 11, I had my tasks along with my weekly tactics for my 12-week year, and I also had this weekly review, which I no longer used. I also added a progress bar for my tasks because I love progress bars, and I added in a property for notes, a relation property, so that any notes that I created that week would be within this place. And this is really where my weekly page became a hub of, or really a starting point, a jumping off point, a launch pad for all of my planning and all of my tasks. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it in terms of my 12-week year. I'm enjoying week 13 right now and getting ready to just kind of thinking about what it is I would like to do for my second cycle, how it is I'm going to adjust my goals, and how I'm going to move forward. So I hope this was helpful in some way to anyone who is starting the 12-week year, who is currently in their 12-week year cycle. Maybe you're also a virtual consultant, a Notion consultant, someone who works or is now getting started. This might be helpful, showing you how to structure a 12-week year. I will you guys on Twitter and across on YouTube as well.